Hey, my friends. I just wanted to show you something because I was just playing with it over the past few days, and I just thought this is really cool. I need to share this. Um, so basically, I just was creating a app using Flutter. I've been learning Flutter over the past, I guess, I started playing around with it, I guess, about 6 months ago, just on and off. And Firebase, which is Google's serverless backend platform. Okay, and I was using it and I just thought, gee, this is really nice. So yeah, I'll just jump in and I'll create a little app using Firebase and Flutter. And along the way, I'll comment on the stuff that I think is really cool about it. So what I did is I hit add project, okay, and I created this shopping list project, and I haven't done anything to it yet. Okay, this is just as it comes. We're going to use the database, okay, and we are going to create a shopping list application. Okay, really simple shopping list. So what I did was I I installed the Flutter tooling just using the getting started. Okay, and I did Flutter create shopping list. Okay, and that ran for a few minutes, and it gave me this folder here, and this little folder which I opened up in Visual Studio Code, and this is the code file here. Everything else kind of supports this file, and it starts with this sort of sample. Okay, and then I went Flutter Flutter emulators launch iOS. So I do have Xcode installed on my Mac, and I'm just using this because the emulator on Xcode is easier and faster to use than the emulator for Android. And that started up this emulator like this. And then I did Flutter run, and that in fact I actually did it from here, but it does the same thing. Okay, and that ran the app, this guy. Okay, and so let me just strip this right back to the sort of bare minimum. Okay, so that you can kind of see just the minimum that's required. Okay, so that's obviously not particularly attractive. What we actually need in here is a component called scaffold, and you can actually go wrap with, which just makes it a little bit easier, scaffold. And the scaffold actually requires a body. And scaffold also wants to have an app bar, because all apps need to have a nice app bar. Shopping list. Right, there you go. And let's maybe center this, eh? So I'm hitting Command full stop to get that little option menu, and I can center it. Okay, so this is a very succinct way of creating a basic little app that will compile down to Android or iOS, and you could have on either of the app stores, on either Android or iOS. Okay, but we want this to be a shopping list. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a list in here instead of this text component. And so list view, and list view requires children. Okay, and inside the children you could put anything you want, like text components. Okay, there they are. But actually, really, what you want to put in here is a list tile. And list tile has a title. Now this is a shopping list, so maybe you're going to go out and you're going to get some apples. Oh, and this actually wants a widget, not a string. Okay, and maybe you're going to get some bananas. Bananas. How do you spell bananas? Bananas. That's embarrassing. Bananas. Okay, and some bread. Okay, and maybe some rice. Okay, and then notice you can have this list tile has all the nice bells and whistles that you want from a list tile, like you can have a subtitle, apples, sort of 2 packs. Okay, and we can also have things like trailing icon, okay, and you've also got things like okay, but we don't want this, and we don't want this. We'll just have this to indicate that it's done. And of course we want our add button at the bottom here, and that's a property of the scaffold. Okay, so there's the scaffold. That's called a floating action button. On pressed can just be null, and the child component is a icon add. Okay, and there we've got our basic app. nice and easy. Okay, I think one of the things that I really love about Flutter is the fact that you actually are writing code to declare your user interface. You're not using an intermediate kind of a format like HTML, or with Android Studio you use an XML, and that kind of XML file. The fact that you're actually declaring your user interface in code, and it's got these nifty properties for the constructors, because each of these are actually constructors. You could put new keywords in here if you wanted to. That might look more familiar, but actually the new keywords are just optional. So these are actually just constructors. The lovely thing about declaring your user interface as code is that you can treat it as code. So for example, if I want to create reusable things, okay, like let's say for example I want to create, like I want to just pull this out and put it in a function, get list tiles. This is just code, so I can just do that. Okay, and the application just carries on working, and now I've got a reusable piece of user interface. And this is really cool because, you know, having worked with Android Studio, to try and create bits of reusable interface, it's a lot more it's a lot more awkward. And when you make things awkward to do, then people don't use them as much. Whereas if it's really trivially easy to create components like this, reusable bits of user interface, if it's really trivially easy, then you're going to use it a lot, and your user interfaces will be better. So anyway, that I like about the fact that it's just all code. So now let's hook this thing up to Firebase, okay, and let's get our list of our shopping list out of Firebase. Okay, so I'm just going to we'll keep this this list view down here for a moment. So in order to get the data out of Firebase, we're going to have to tap into the stream of data coming from Firebase. Okay, so we use this stream builder component. Let me just import the package we need. Okay, we use this stream builder component, and the stream builder component needs a stream. Okay, and this stream is the data coming from our Firestore database. Okay, and we're looking at a collection. You can think of this like a table, or probably more like a folder. The collection called shopping list. Okay, and now we can put in our builder. Okay, where we're actually going to build our user interface. All right, and we do need to do a little bit of error handling. So I've just stuck in some simple error handling. So if there's an error, and while we're waiting for a connection, just to show a progress indicator. Right, and then we can build up our list view based on the data coming from the database. Okay, so to do that, so our list view children are going to come from the data from the database. Okay, and we're going to return list tile. Okay, and the data is going to come from the database. Let's just get it out of the database. Okay, and also we want the little tick mark to say if we have actually bought that item in our shopping list. All right. Okay, so that looks good. It looks happy. There's nothing in our shopping list yet because there's nothing in our database. So let's go through to the database. Here's the Firestore database, and let's create the shopping list collection. Title, apples, complete, false. Okay, so I spelled complete wrong. So now it's pulling the data straight out of the database, Firestore database, through to my app. Okay, so the database is now integrated and linked in with the app. Let's add another document into our shopping list. Title, bananas, complete, false. Okay, and we can make complete true. Okay, and the thing that I find really interesting about this architecture is that this is a two-tier architecture, like a client-server architecture, not a three-tier architecture, which is what I've become so used to with working with the web, where you've got a database and then a business logic layer, which will be like an API, like written in Java or C# or Node.js or whatever it is, that sits between your database and then a thin client on the front end. And I think that this two-tier architecture is just so much easier to work with. So anyway, there you go. There's a little demo for you. Hopefully you enjoyed it.